Before we knew anything about Black Ops 6 Zombies, one of the biggest concerns for this game was how the loadout system is going to affect the use of the mystery box and wall weapons. I've made a couple of videos at this point raising my concerns, how I believe the loadout system in Black Ops Cold War made two features that were very important in Zombies and had been in the game since the very beginning back in 2008 World at War redundant, the mystery box and wall weapons. Because Treyarch introduced loadouts into Black Ops Cold War, that meant that you can now start off with the weapon of your choice. Unless you're stupid, you're going to start off with the best weapon in the game. Of course, that's going to be slightly different for everyone depending on your playstyle. Some players prefer shotguns for that close quarter action, some players prefer assault rifles to take zombies on at a longer range. So even though the best weapon in the game is both objective and subjective, due to the loadout system, you could spawn in on round 1 with the best weapon in the game. And what that meant was there was then no reason for you to buy a wall weapon or mystery box weapon from that point on. Unless you wanted the wonder weapon or a secondary weapon as backup, there should be no reason for you to purchase a wall weapon or a box weapon, because the weapon that you load in with, the one that you chose, has all of the attachments on it that suit you. Before the match begins, you customize a weapon to your standard, putting all of the attachments on it that you want. That could include a long barrel, extended magazines, a fast mag. You can choose your own optics to make it the best version of that weapon that you could possibly use. And so if you could start off with the best gun in the game on round 1, then there was absolutely no need for you to buy a wall weapon, and there was pretty much no need for you to spin the mystery box unless you were after the wonder weapon. No wall weapon and no box weapon should be better than the gun you start off with. And so, as you can see, that meant those two features, which were staples in Call of Duty Zombies since the beginning, became pretty useless. Before this, back in the day, usually you would start off with a pistol. You would then have to purchase wall weapons until you made your way through the map to the mystery box, in which you would then have to purchase that multiple times to get either a specific weapon that you were after or just one that was good enough. Wall weapons and the mystery box were vital. They were important parts of every single match, but because loadouts meant you could start off with the best weapon in the game, excluding the wonder weapon, buying wall weapons as you made your way through the map and spinning the mystery box just wasn't a necessary part of Zombies anymore. And so for Black Ops 6, people were hoping that this problem would be fixed, that Treyarch would find a way to kind of get around it, because we could have predicted that loadouts would return in Black Ops 6, which they have. However, Treyarch needed to find a way to make it so that it didn't take away the usefulness of wall and box weapons. And well, they've kind of done that by reintroducing zombie builds, or weapon kits as they were called, from Black Ops 3 Zombies. Now, if you don't know what they were, let me show you. It's relatively simple. In the Zombies menu, there was a weapon kit section where you could customize submachine guns, assault rifles, shotguns, light machine guns, snipers, and secondaries. Basically, every weapon in the game you could fully customize by adding attachments onto them, such as quick draw, a stock, a laser sight, rapid fire, a grip, a long barrel, fast mags. You could add attachments and customize every single weapon in the game, and then all of those customized weapons would then be available to you either through the mystery box or wall weapons when you actually play. And how this differed to Black Ops Cold War Zombies was, well, this feature didn't exist. If you brought a wall weapon or a box weapon in Cold War, yes, it would have attachments on them, but those attachments would be random. They wouldn't be ones that you chose. Again, bringing up the fact that, well, if you're given a weapon with attachments that you don't find useful, what's the point in using it? You're just going to stick with the weapon that you started with, your loadout weapon, that has all of the attachments that you want. If you wanted those attachments, you just add it to your own loadout. This was an amazing feature in Black Ops 3 Zombies. There is one downside, which I'll mention in just a second, but it meant that the wall weapons, the starting room weapons such as the RK5 or the Shiva, went from being pretty bad, sometimes to the point where I just stick with my starting pistol, go through a few doors and get a better weapon, instead of wasting 500 points on these spawn room guns. But because you could customize and add attachments to the RK5 and the Shiva, especially adding extended mags and quick reload, that made them really powerful and viable. If you reached max rank and unlocked all of the weapons and could customize all of them to make them all really good, then pretty much whatever wall weapon you got in Black Ops 3 or box weapon had the chance to be as good as one another, especially because weapon rarity didn't exist in Black Ops 3. If you added the right attachments to all of the weapons, or most of them, in certain situations they were all as good as one another. The only proper upgrade you could do in BO3 was to Pack-a-Punch. There was no weapon rarity. The one thing I will say is this did mean that I just never really wanted to prestige in Black Ops 3, because if I did, all of my weapon attachments would reset and I'd have to get to the max rank again to unlock everything. So I think I stayed on like prestige level 1 or 2 for years and then ended up prestiging. I wish I never did. So that was one downside to it, but the main point is BO3's weapon kits made all of the wall weapons and box weapons viable. That feature never returned in Black Ops Cold War. Instead, we were given loadouts. You could only customize the weapon that you started off with, which meant all of the wall weapons and box weapons just had random attachments that you probably didn't want and shouldn't have been as good as your loadout weapon. However, in Black Ops 6, what Treyarch have now done is, even though loadouts are returning, they've also brought back the weapon builds or zombie kits from Black Ops 3. So you can add attachments to every single weapon in the game, and then all of those customized weapons you can access in-game via the wall or box. So this should mean, like Black Ops 3, your loadout weapon is on a level playing field to all of the other weapons in the game, because they all include the attachments that you put on them. So that sounds perfect, right? Treyarch have found a way to fix this problem, to make the wall weapons and the box weapons viable again. But I do think there are two issues that still remain with this. The first one being, well, if you are choosing to spawn in with a certain weapon and start with that on round 1, well, surely that's still going to be the weapon of your choice all the way through a match. For example, I thought the best weapon in Cold War was the Gallo. That was the one I started off with on round 1. But even in that game, if all of the wall weapons and box weapons had attachments that I wanted on them, well, to me, the Gallo was still the best weapon in the game. I'm not then going to go and purchase a wall weapon or a box weapon, because they're still not going to be better for me than the weapon I've started off with, the Gallo. If there was, then I would have just chose that weapon as my loadout. I mean, there's probably guns which are relatively similar that I would also use as an alternative. Just as an example, maybe the MP5. Yes, it was crap, but if that gun had all of the attachments on it that I wanted and I could easily get it from the wall, I might do that and use it as a secondary weapon. But the Gallo, my loadout weapon, the one I started with, was still the weapon of my choice, and it's still going to be my primary weapon. Other than the Wonder Weapon, being able to customize all of the wall weapons and box weapons to my specification still shouldn't mean they're better than my loadout, because I chose this to start in with, right? Otherwise I would have chose something else. And this is where this system differs to Black Ops 3. You couldn't choose your starting weapon in that game, so you were still forced to buy wall weapons and box weapons, whereas in Black Ops 6 you're not. You can just keep your loadout weapon. But with this new system, I can see myself buying a wall weapon or a box weapon for a secondary weapon, or maybe, for example, on a map like Terminus, which looks like it has lots of short and long range sights, perhaps combining a shotgun and a sniper would be a great combination. And if I can now fully customize the snipers from the box, then that's a reason to spin it and use it as a secondary gun. So the introduction of weapon builds in Black Ops 6 kind of fixes this, and the other thing Treyarch have tried to do is increase weapon rarities. But this was something that they also did in Black Ops Cold War. If you don't know what I'm on about, basically the loadout weapon that you begin with is of red rarity, which is the lowest, and then all of the wall weapons or box weapons, to make them more viable, should be about 1 rarity higher. So for example, here you can see I've got my red rarity shotgun, but on the wall there is another shotgun that is of green rarity, meaning it's more powerful, but it doesn't include my attachments on it. So I'm still not going to buy it, even though it's slightly more powerful. But in Black Ops 6, if I'm in this exact same situation where my loadout weapon is red rarity and one of the wall guns is of green rarity, if that also now includes the attachments on it that I would use, then there is more of a chance that I'm gonna pick it up. I can see myself in a situation where if I'm on a low round where I don't have enough essence or scrap to upgrade my weapon properly through the Pack-a-Punch or its rarity, then for those earlier rounds I might use a wall weapon or a box weapon that's of higher rarity until I can get to that stage with my own loadout. But like I said, this system was also a part of Black Ops Cold War, and it didn't really matter to me. If a weapon off the wall was a couple of rarities higher, to me it still wasn't good enough because it didn't include, I don't know, extended mags or fast mags, which to my playstyle was vital. But if you combine that now with weapon builds in BO6, I do think it definitely addresses the problem that loadouts made wall weapons and box weapons useless in Cold War, Vanguard and Modern Warfare 3, but I don't think it fully fixes it, because there still shouldn't really be a situation, especially on those higher rounds, when you have saved enough essence and scrap to fully upgrade your loadout weapon, where any box or wall weapon, I've said that so many times, is just better than the gun you started off with. Otherwise, if it was, well, you'd start off with that instead. I think Treyarch have probably done as much as they can to fix this. The only other option was to remove loadouts altogether, but that's not going to happen. So I think they've tried their best, and the only thing we can really do is just wait until the game comes out and see if people start using wall weapons and box weapons more. I think they will, but I can't see a situation where people are going to get rid of their loadout weapons. If you buy a box weapon or a wall weapon, I think it's ever really only going to be as your secondary, or as an alternative for different situations, such as going around corners. You might want a shotgun, or if you're in open space and you want to kill a lot of zombies at once, you might use your assault rifle, now that it's actually of decent quality because of weapon builds. Yeah, it's an improvement. So there we go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest content on the channel. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.